if I told you that the Democratic Party is losing Black voters? What if I told you that the self-proclaimed and described Black female candidate, at least that's what the Democratic Party has been running with Kamala, running on her identity? What if I told you that she is losing Black voters? Ladies and gentlemen, you may not believe it. I'm shocked they covered this on MSNBC, but we got to get into this, and then I'm going to show you why. I'm going to tell you why it's happening. Let's dive in.
New poll numbers for a key Democratic constituency could shed light on Kamala Harris's bid for the White House. A new NAACP poll finds more than 1/4 of younger Black men say they will support Donald Trump in November. That is consistent with surveys during Joe Biden's time in office, showing some younger Black voters and Black men of all ages having lost faith in the Democratic Party.
1 in 4 U.S. Black men under 50 support Donald Trump for president. This is coming from a poll from the NAACP.
Joining me now is NAACP President and CEO Derek Johnson. Good to see you again, Derek. So let me note here, this poll was conducted last month. It was before both the DNC and the presidential debate. It only surveyed 12 states. Having said that, overall, Black voters plan to support Harris. Only 13% say they support Trump. But the difference among Black men is stark. Let
me pause here. Notice how she said only 13% say they support Trump. That's still quite a bit for a Republican. Remember, that's just Black men. That's not, and they said 12 states. That's just Black men. That's not including Black women, right? Or 13% say they support Donald Trump. Like, considering that Donald Trump was already president and he lost re-election to Joe Biden, shouldn't that number trend in the opposite direction? Shouldn't Donald Trump be losing Black voter support? But that's not what's happening.
77% of Black men above age 50 saying they support Harris, yet only 26% under 50 say they do. The surveys also found messaging emphasizing rights being under attack that is most likely to motivate younger Black men. So give me a sense of what is behind this, and even more, what can be done about it.
Well, first of all, the enthusiasm in the African-American community around this election rivals that of 2008. In fact, we are seeing an increase in enthusiasm. The opportunity is for the campaigns to talk to young and African-American male voters. That's an opportunity for them to understand the value of their vote, and also to show how their vote can begin to address some additional systemic changes. The challenges that many African Americans face or see is around racism, structural barriers, particularly when it comes to law enforcement, which is really consistent when you think about African Americans, males encounters and young people's encounters with law enforcement. So we need to pay special attention to that and offer solutions, while at the exact same time recognize that the Black vote will be a very important vote in the targeted states. And so the opportunity for campaigns at this moment is to communicate directly to those voters in a way in which it addresses the issues that are of most concern, particularly inflation, among the many things that this poll finds.
Let me pause here for a second. So NAACP, you have to understand, is not the same NAACP that it was during the Civil Rights Movement. It's become very corporate. It's very much like a part of the Democratic Party. And unfortunately, a lot of the civil rights energy was funneled into the Democratic Party, especially after those leaders were killed. So you got to realize who you're listening to here. So just keep that in mind. 2, I don't see that energy from Black people for Kamala Harris. This energy that he's talking about, I don't see that at all. He said it is rivaling 2008 energy. Oh, hell no. I haven't seen that. When Obama ran for president in 2008, I saw that energy. I saw that energy among the Black community. I don't see that same level of support from Black voters for Kamala Harris. I don't see that. And for him to sit up there and say, oh, yeah, it's rivaling. No, it's not. There's no comparison. You're talking about right now, 63% of black voters. Just a couple of weeks ago, they said she was 74%. Now they're saying it's 63% with black voters. That's not good. Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden, Barack Obama, they were polling higher with black voters at this point in time than Kamala Harris. They're going to get into that. This is important. You need to see these numbers.
And to your point, yes, 78% of black voters are as excited as they were in 2008 when Barack Obama ran for president. 56% are more excited now. Most respondents say their view of Harris has grown over the past month, but among the undecided voters, Derek, 1 in 4 say their opinion of her is less favorable than a month ago. So what's the strategy to reach some low propensity voters in black communities?
And I don't even understand where that 78% feel the same excitement as when Obama first ran. That's gotta be older black voters. That's gotta be, because with younger black people, I will say black voters under the age of 50. I don't see it. I don't. And don't get me wrong. Like, there are some black voters who are like, yeah, I want to support her. But I haven't seen black voters say they're excited about supporting her. Not black voters under 50. Most black people I've spoken to said they're not going to vote at all. So it is, I don't know. That's gotta be older black voters. That's gotta be.
But for the NAACP, our strategy is to enlist more volunteers to talk to their neighbors to get them to the polls. It should be the strategy of the campaigns to talk to those voters to make sure they understand what's at stake, how their vote can make a difference in the outcome of the election. What would that mean in terms of the quality of their life? Policing has always been a concern in the African-American communities, particularly with young voters, particularly with African-American voters. But also inflation is of concern. And so you cannot take this block of voters for granted. That's what this poll is telling us. While at the exact same time it's saying that people are excited to participate, but we need to close the gap in terms of young voters, African-American voters, around their understanding with the power of their vote, how their vote would improve their lives, and why this election is so important.
Yeah.
And that is where you are losing black voters. When he says how this vote will improve their lives, the reason why you don't have that same type of energy is because we know it won't. We know it won't. We had that energy and that hope when Obama ran in 08. We was like, yeah, we finally got someone. He's probably going to make sure he does things for black people. And he didn't. Black wealth tanked under Barack Obama. So every person that runs for president after Barack Obama, you have to prove to people that you are not going to let the black community down like Barack Obama did. That's just the reality. So when he says that they have to understand that the vote will improve their lives, nah, we understand it won't. This is the NAACP. This is what the NAACP has become, right? No more, freedom. No more fighting for not just equality, but also equity. They have become a shill of the Democratic Party. That is what the NAACP has become. The NAACP, the Urban League, the Black Boule are not going to help low-income black communities in this country. They got their bag and they've moved on.
The effects from the Supreme Court overturning affirmative action certainly materializing now. Your first-year enrollment for black students at Harvard dropped from 18% to 14% last year. Columbia and Brown report similar decreases in black admissions. Then you look at Yale and Princeton, the percentage remained about the same. But yeah, there are differences in how they've gathered these numbers. Generally, though, what do you make of them? Are you surprised by them?
Well, it's unfortunate. I think some of these institutions went too far to comply with a Supreme Court decision that simply didn't say much of what we're thinking in the public discourse. Secondly, this is not a good indication for our society. When you leave the brain power of certain communities, off the table, you rob the American public, our democracy, of the ability to continue to grow and maintain our economy, because we are less fortunate when we don't have the intellectual capital of many young people at the table. African Americans have contributed so much to this society. Giving them more opportunities and exposure isn't taken away from anyone. It actually expands what's possible. And I hope these institutions reconsider their admissions policy, because if they don't, we're going to have a long-term gap that we will not be able to fill. And it's not about the Black community not being able to fill. It's about America not being able to fill the gap that we are creating by not having everybody at the table.
Donald.
Another thing I want to mention here as well. Notice the universities that they mention: Harvard, right? Yale. Why is it when they talk about these colleges, why are they only focusing on the elite institutions? Do you guys know, like, you can get a decent or a great education at a public university, right? You can look at some of these public universities like Michigan State University, University of Michigan, the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, University of Virginia. These are really great schools. These are top schools. And this idea that we have to look at how Black students are doing with admissions with Harvard and Yale and Stanford. Why? Why are we only focusing on those institutions? Why are we encouraging these students to attend these state schools that are top 30 schools? University of Chapel Hill, last time I checked, was a top 30 school, boo. The University of Virginia, top school. These are public universities. Why are we trying to push these kids or make it seem like the gold standard for them should be these elite institutions, when oftentimes these elite institutions do not offer programs and an environment that makes Black students feel welcomed? Why are we doing that? Why are we steadily trying to push Black kids into these schools where they don't really fit? Now, this is not to say that you can't apply to those schools. If you want to go to Harvard, then go to Harvard. But what I'm saying is, why is that the focus? Why? University of California, Berkeley, top school, public university. Why don't they ever mention that? What is this obsession with these elite schools? We need to have a serious conversation about how we measure success in this country.
Trump once again promised to carry out the largest deportation in U.S. history and said his operation would target Haitian immigrants in Springfield, Ohio, despite zero evidence backing his repeated claims that they're eating their neighbors' pets. Here's some of what he said, Derek. Take a listen.
In Springfield, Ohio, 20,000 illegal Haitian migrants have descended upon a town of 58,000 people, destroying their way of life. We will do large deportations from Springfield, Ohio. Large deportations. We're going to get these people out. We're bringing them back to Venezuela.
Little detail here. Haitian people are not from Venezuela. They're from Haiti. But most of Ohio's immigrants work in factories to meet the demands of the area's labor shortage. So what's your response to Trump saying they're destroying the community's way of life?
Well, the rapid pace of his cognitive abilities should be alarming to everyone. As you said, Haitians are from Haiti, not Venezuela. So first of all, we should be alarmed that the Republican Party is offering up someone who's obviously lacked the mental capacity to serve as president. Secondly, the appeal to the lowest common denominator of hate and fear is something we should all reject. In that one statement, he is rising up the issues of xenophobia, racism, and a way in which we should not tolerate in this country. And then finally, you said it, many of the individuals who are in Ohio in this country, they're here legally, they are productive citizens. They're working in factories and in fields. They are paying into tax systems that we're not allowing them to receive any benefits from. These are individuals that we should not be treating in this manner. We should figure out what is the right solution to address the crisis that we have around individuals to do certain type of work. We are running out of people to perform certain services. You think about the agricultural industry, we don't have enough people to provide the necessary labor to maintain our agricultural infrastructure.
Well, then maybe we should be recruiting Black Americans for those jobs instead of trying to push people into these Ivy League institutions where they're not welcomed anyway. Maybe that's something that should be done. I have that number here. I want to show you the number here because I want you to see the difference when we compare Obama and Kamala and Biden with Black voters. Everybody needs to see this. This is the part I think a lot of people are not discussing, even in independent media. The pro-Kamala people in independent media, they're not telling people about this. Kamala Harris gets a potentially worrying sign from the NAACP poll. Now, again, this was updated September 16th. So let's just look at the numbers, okay? The NAACP poll conducted in collaboration with Heart Research and HIT Strategies. Look at this. It found that 78% of respondents felt the same or more excitement about voting than when Barack Obama first ran as president in 2008. But this part here, let me come down, sorry. Of course, they're saying gender is going to be an issue, whatever. While 79% of Black women over 50 said they would vote for her, only 66% of men in the same age group felt the same. So they're talking about that. This part here, where I think she's going to have to pay close attention to, right here. Black voters. The Suffolk University poll from earlier in September showed that she had a 64-point lead over former President Donald Trump. The figure is lower than Joe Biden's 2020 lead, which stood at 78 points. So at this point in time, Joe Biden had a higher percentage of support among Black voters, 78%, 78 points. 78 points for Joe Biden, 64 points for Kamala Harris. What happened there? Now look at Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton, let me unhighlight the rest of it so you guys can just see what I'm focusing on here. Hillary Clinton had 88 points in 2016 at this time. So what is it about Kamala Harris that is causing her to have a 64-point percentage here? Let me start from the beginning so people don't get confused. Harris' support among Black voters, while strong, lags behind previous Democratic candidates. So again, what is it about Kamala Harris that causes her to have 64 points, but Joe Biden had 78 points and Hillary Clinton had 88 points, all of them running against Donald Trump. So when Hillary ran against Donald Trump, she had 88 points at this time. When Biden ran against Donald Trump, he had 78 points at this time. Kamala Harris has 64 points at this time running against Donald Trump. So what is it about Kamala Harris? Let me show you something. Because this is part of the problem. At the National Association of Black Journalists, one of the questions that Kamala Harris was asked about is reparations. I want you to hear her response to this. Once again, as I told you before, there are certain topics where you can tell she feels comfortable discussing, and there are certain topics where you can tell she does not feel comfortable discussing it. This is one of those topics where I notice she does not seem comfortable discussing it. Listen to what she says.
What we need to do going forward. Look, first of all, we just need to speak truth about history, in spite of the fact that some people try and erase history and try and teach our children otherwise. We need to speak truth about the generational impact of our history, in terms of the generational impact of slavery, the generational impact of redlining, of Jim Crow law. I could go on and on and on. These are facts that have had impact. And we need to speak truth about it. And we need to speak truth about it in a way that is about deriving solutions. And frankly, I think that we, and part of that is studying it to figure out exactly what we need to do. But
so, big red flag right there. What did I tell you about people that tell you it needs to be studied, right? The studies have already been done. If you look at Jill Stein's platform, does she tell you we need to study? No. She lays out a complete platform of a Black agenda, which includes reparations. Does Jill Stein say we need to study it? No. She said, let's study it and figure out what we need to do. You should already know what needs to be done. Does everybody understand this? How is it that I know what needs to be done? I'm not running for office. How do I know what needs to be done, but she doesn't know what needs to be done? Let's let her continue.
Part of what we can do right now is, for example, what I'm talking about in terms of building an opportunity economy, which is addressing explicitly the obstacles that historically and currently exist and dealing with them. Student loan debt, medical debt, bias in home appraisals.
Everybody see the problem here? Now they are asking her about reparations, and she is now talking about universal issues that affect everybody. Student loan debt affects everyone who has student loan debt. Student loan debt also does not close the racial wealth gap. Dr. Sandy Darity explains this in his book, From Here to Equality. That's someone who's done the study, by the way, Kamala. So if you really want to know about this study, you need to reach out and have a conversation with Dr. Sandy Darity. That's really who you need to talk to. You can also speak to Yvette Carnell. You can speak to Antonio Moore, co-founders of ADOS. You need to be speaking to these particular people. Ignoring them and avoiding these groups and reparations activists, you are really out there making yourself look like a fool. And then, of course, the Democratic Party has her running on she's a Black woman, but she don't know about this. And she's not willing to reach out to anybody who does. Now, she didn't add it in homes. She didn't add it in student loan debt, medical debt, all these things. Again, there she goes, adding in other people when talking about reparations for the American descendants of slavery. Everybody see what she does? Just like she added in other groups to the Freedmen Bank, instead of, she has a very uncomfortable time when people talk to her about issues specific to the Black community. She looks uncomfortable. She doesn't know how to answer it. She looks like she is struggling there. That's a problem. How is it that Cornel West can sit here and talk to you about reparations? Jill Stein, who is not Black, how is it she can sit there and talk to you about reparations? How is it all these other people can sit, Claudia de la Cruz, all these other people that are running, they can sit down there and talk to you about it. Kamala Harris, who has been running on I'm a Black woman, does not understand what reparations is. And that is a problem to a significant part of the Black voter base. And she needs to get that, and she needs to understand that. Now, it may not be her favorite topic, but considering where she's sitting right now with Black voters compared to Biden and Hillary Clinton, she might want to learn that topic.
What we need to do in terms of dealing with an issue that I have championed for years, Black maternal mortality, which is the fact that Black women are 3 to 4 times more likely to die in connection with childbirth than other women. And we know that the reasons for that include disparities that pre-exist her pregnancy, including disparities that exist in the system during her pregnancy. So all of those things must be addressed.
But do you have a...
Now she's adding racial justice to reparations. And I want to be very clear about this. Reparations is a debt that is owed. She didn't mix in all this other stuff, fam. And if you don't know, just say you don't know. This is the problem I think some people have with Kamala Harris. Instead of just saying, I need to look into that, say you need to look into that. Instead of saying that, she brings in all this stuff, this word salad. Well, we know what the history is and this happened. Everybody knows that. We all know about the history. We know about slavery. Why are you telling us what we already know? So he has to repeat the question again.
Position on whether that should happen, this commission should happen through executive order or via Congress?
I think Congress ultimately will have the ability to do this work. I'm not discounting the importance of any executive action, but ultimately Congress. Because if you're going to talk about it in any substantial way, there will be hearings, there will be a level of public education and dialogue that, and I think that was part of the spirit behind the congressional action thus far, to ensure that everyone can participate in this conversation in a way that elevates knowledge about history and the reference points that have that are the impetus of this conversation. Especially, again, when people are trying to deny history, when people are, so-called leaders are saying that enslaved people benefited from slavery. I mean, let's talk about the delta here in terms of the work that needs to be done. It's profound.
How does Jill Stein know more about this topic than Kamala Harris does? That is the thing that drives me crazy. And then here's another thing. Okay, so notice how he said, do you think you can do that commission by executive order, or should it be Congress? Oh, I think it should be Congress. Yeah, pass it on over to them. She don't want to deal with this. This is Kamala Harris telling you she doesn't want to do this. Does everybody understand? This woman does not want to pursue reparations, and she needs to just say that. And she's wondering why, struggling with Black voters. And I Am really hits the nail on the head here. Thank you, I Am. I Am says, the last 30 years of what Black people got from voting in 4 simple pictures. Bill Clinton playing the saxophone. Barack Obama dancing on Ellen, on the show Ellen. Hillary Clinton dancing on the show Ellen. And Kamala Harris dancing here. This was when she ran in 2020. This is it. Right? So this is what they think. They think all they have to do is perform for us, play a saxophone, send out a rapper, show people that showed us that they can do the electric slide or something like that. They think that's all they have to do for Black voters. That's it. And part of it is because we have to demand it, right? And when you demand it, you can't go back on your demands. You can't say, well, they told me this other person is a significant threat, so I'm just going to vote for them anyway. That's why the Democratic Party don't do anything for the Black community, because we will make demands, some of us, not all, and then just go along with them anyway. Why would they? Why would they? Philosopher King, thank you so much for this. He puts it so well. This guy's on it. Radicals in the 1960s argued that Black America was shifting from an internal colony into an internal neo-colony whose MBA professional class would be assimilated while the masses suffered from poverty and a police state. I think it is safe to say we have completed that process. He's referring to Angela Rye's video here, getting ready for the Congressional Black Caucus, etc. This is what I was saying. These people don't do nothing. These people don't do nothing for us and the community. They just want to entertain us. That's it. So that's something you may not hear from some of the other shows. When it comes to, they're talking about how she's doing pretty well in Iowa, of all places. That's cool. How many Black people live in Iowa? They're talking about, oh, Black voters are so excited about her. However, what they're not showing you is that when you compare her numbers to Biden and Hillary and Obama with black voters, she is not in a good spot.